The Best of Our Knowledge explores topics on learning, education, and research. On today's program, students get the chance to meet with former U.S. House representatives as part of a program that brings Congress to campus. Graduating high schoolers share their experiences with an early college learning program, and we'll speak with the new president of SUNY New Paltz, who will be inaugurated this month. It's all next on The Best of Our Knowledge. You are listening to The Best of Our Knowledge. I'm your host, Lucas Willard. Gathering a sense of how the U.S. government works, politics excluded, can be difficult without hearing about it from officials themselves. Students at Skidmore College in Saratoga Springs, New York, recently had the chance to meet with former U.S. House representatives as part of a program that brings Congress to campus. I was fortunate to listen in on a lecture and filed this report. A program of the U.S. Association of Former Members of Congress, Congress to Campus allows officials who have finished their time in Washington to travel the country visiting students at colleges and universities to share their experiences in government. Republican Bill Flores represented parts of Texas in D.C. from 2011 to 2021 and is now on his second tour under the program.
And I think it helps take today's students and give them a real-world view about how the political process works, how the federal government works, how the Constitution was designed to work. And it helps them have, I think, a wider aperture of views as to how Congress works.
Democrat Bill Enyart, who represented Illinois from 2013 to 2014, is on his 15th campus tour. The pair want to dispel some of the myths of what happens inside the Beltway.
Congress is sometimes not portrayed entirely accurately in the media, and so we get an opportunity on a one-on-one basis to share our experiences, both in Congress and in our non-elected life.
Seated at a first-year government class, the former officials relayed their jam-packed day-to-day schedules and the challenges of balancing their four lives: official, political, fundraising, and family, as well as how their past lives informed their time in Congress. Flores, a former oil and gas executive, said he focused his legislative career on education, immigration, and technology issues. Enyart, a retired two-star U.S. Army general, was interested in agricultural, energy, and military issues. In a relaxed classroom discussion, the colleagues from opposing parties wanted to showcase their differences in opinion and ways of finding common ground. Flores said the tight schedules of congressional life made such discussions a rarity.
Our last class we just had was 80 minutes long. When I was in Congress, that would have been 4 meetings. And so it's come in, introductions, talk about the facts, and then go outside, take a picture in front of the office. And that's the way it worked. And so you didn't really have a chance to really drill into details like Bill and I did in the class today.
Enyart recalled stories of voting against the party line.
When you're in Congress, it's talking point. Nobody's listening to the other guy. We were listening, and we hold differing viewpoints, but we didn't yell, we didn't scream, we didn't point fingers at each other.
Didn't get on a tweet about each other.
Yeah. So, and these are legitimate policy concerns that need to be considered.
The classroom conversation wasn't exactly what freshman Josh Maxwell expected.
It was a lot more civil than I expected, actually.
Maxwell received answers from both officials as to why they opposed same-sex marriage before the Supreme Court ruled in favor in 2015. Flores explained at the time for him it was a moral issue, but he respects the new law of the land. Enyart said he didn't support legalizing gay marriage when in Congress because of a lack of study on the economic impacts on government programs like Social Security.
Coming here today was not a political opportunity for them. It was just to talk about their beliefs and their experiences. So it was definitely a new experience for me, and it was very refreshing.
Skidmore College professor Bob Turner said he wanted to accomplish 2 main goals.
First, we talk about congressional committees, we talk about term limits, we talk about elections and gerrymandering in my class. But to hear the members of Congress talk about how they experience those things as a real level just brings that material alive.
And the second goal, said Turner, is to show how officials of opposing parties can discuss the merits of any given issue.
I thought it was really helpful for them to hear a conservative Republican make the argument for the Trump tax cuts and how it benefited these people. And he's like, I want people to get a job and for them to become sort of self-reliant. And for the students to hear that, maybe they didn't hear in their home with their mom watching MSNBC and Rachel Maddow in the background, is, I think, a really eye-opening experience.
The pair also offered their thoughts on the current state of affairs in Washington. WAMC asked Flores about January's protracted election of Republican Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker.
Both parties in the House have an issue with the fringes on each end of the spectrum that are framing the narrative. So if you look at Kevin McCarthy, it was the Freedom Caucus that was causing the disruptions in his ability to be elected. If you look at when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker, she had trouble with the far left branch trying to frame the conversation. And so at the end of the day, most Americans don't live in those ends of the ideological spectrum. They live somewhere closer to the middle. And so I don't think that we are well served in the House by having the fringe elements control the narrative for either party. And so I'm hoping that somehow we as Americans can begin to figure out that those people are not doing us any favors on the fringes, and we can start to elect people that reflect broader views in the House and the Senate as well.
Enyart agrees.
The media maxim is if it bleeds, it leads. So we see too much on Fox News or CNN or whatever, pick your particular poison, of people who are throwing slings and arrows at the other side. We need less of that, and we need a little more serious policy discussion and serious attempts to not just message, but to resolve some of these policy issues.
You're listening to The Best of Our Knowledge. I'm Lucas Willard. The small Mount Everett Regional School in Sheffield, Massachusetts, in the southern Berkshires, has offered students free early college courses for a year now. The first wave of graduates are now leaving with valuable credits in hand as they move forward in their lives. In February, Mount Everett held an assembly to celebrate the young people who served as the test subjects of an ambitious new effort to furnish students with college credits for free as a part of their public education. The Best of Our Knowledge's Josh Landis was there.
The program was carried out in partnership with nearby Bard College at Simon's Rock in Great Barrington.
We've been a leader in early college nationwide, at Simon's Rock for many years, but we hadn't really done a lot for the local area or a lot of collaborations with the schools here. There have been things here and there over the years, but we really wanted something that was more intentional, that really connected in. And when the state launched this Massachusetts Early College Initiative, it certainly made perfect sense for the founding site of early college to have involvement within it.
Provost and Vice President John Weinstein was on hand for the festivities.
Students should have every possibility open to them. We're not saying that every student should do one thing or another on any path, but students should have an experiential way to determine what it is that they want to do.
Removing the price tag from college credits is also part of the plan.
We remove the economic obstacle because the students and families aren't having to pay anything for these courses. We're removing the structural obstacle because it can start right here in the school building.
Weinstein says that the classes aren't like advanced placement courses, which teach to a test.
It's harder for students to have individualized responses, individualized answers, because you're going toward a common assessment. What we're trying to do often is encouraging teachers to come up with questions where every student could come up with a totally different answer that would all be right and wonderful in different ways.
To achieve the full-scale implementation of the early college courses, Mount Everett rolled the dice and chose to fully immerse its student body of around 300 directly into the experience, with little preparation. Noah Williams is 17.
It was a surprise because we all signed up for regular English, and then they told us at the beginning of the year we're taking a college class. So it was definitely a surprise.
It was very surprising at first. We were kind of overwhelmed at first, but as time progressed, it was a cool class.
Jordy Peck, 18, says the discussion-based format of the early college English course was unlike any he'd ever taken before.
It was on our hands to carry the lesson. I mean, it wasn't all the teacher talking. It was just like the students in the actual classroom that was carrying the discussions, carrying the weight, and dictating how the class went.
Again, Williams.
It really challenges you to think intellectually. I feel like there's a lot of questions that really don't have answers, so we were just discussing the whole class, which I really liked. We didn't read a lot of books. We just read packets and discussed it, which is like more my thing, just open discussions and seeing what other people's opinions are.
Peck said that there's no question it was harder than its previous English classes, but recommended it nonetheless.
Even if you're not going to college, you're still going to have to learn how to have discussion-based learning. I mean, and jobs in the real world and any sort of living, you need to know how to talk to people and answer questions and know how to do critical thinking.
Both Williams and Peck intend to go on to college. Williams says the class will resonate as he moves ahead with his education.
I think one big takeaway was there really is no wrong answer. Mr. Walton really emphasized that, which I liked because I wasn't afraid to answer. So if you have a question, there's no stupid answer. I just feel like you need to go in and just discuss, even if you think you're wrong. So don't be afraid to answer. There's no stupid questions. I recommend it because a lot of people lack intellectual discussions. So I feel like it'd be really good if everyone took this class just for the real world.
Another Mount Everett early college course was about film. Victoria Breen, 17, didn't know she'd be studying the cinematic arts until the last moment.
It was definitely shocking. It was the first day of school, and I was supposed to be in my anatomy class, and then I was told that I had two classes during one period, so that was a little bit difficult, but I thought that the class was going to be really interesting, so I thought it was worth it.
One of the best surprises was about who was teaching the course.
We thought he was just a professor, but he turns out to be a director and a movie producer and stuff, and he makes his own films, and we had no idea. So that was really cool to get the opportunity to work with someone who's actually very familiar with the topic.
Deanne Vo is a professor at Simon's Rock and an independent filmmaker.
We did a little bit of a hybrid course where we taught students how to appreciate films, just understand kind of the language of cinema, and that culminated in having the students attempt to make a short film of their own.
He attended the ceremony to cheer the early college program participants he'd worked with.
I found these students refreshingly open and perhaps just candid and really warm. It was a lovely experience.
Oh yeah, we made a film.
One of the students was Cassie Campeglio.
For our final project, we decided that we wanted to do a film, so we just kind of brainstormed for a few weeks and then we put a film together.
Vo described it as a suspenseful thriller.
It's about two women who are romantically involved. They become part of a crime, and kind of relations get strained and tense as a result.
Campeglio offered her assessment of the filmmaking experience.
It's kind of stressful at times, but once we got the hang of it, it got a little bit easier, and even though it was kind of short, we still I still appreciated it because of all the hard work that we put into it.
Both students plan on attending college and agree that the challenge was well worth it. Not just educationally. Again, Breen.
Financially, it's really a smart decision to make because you're getting these college classes for free in high school where you'd have to pay for them when you go to college. So it's definitely something you should take advantage of.
Campeglio.
At first, I didn't know that they was going to be taking money off, and now I'm kind of wow, that's something that I don't have to worry about in college now.
Dylan Stevens, 18, is a Mount Everett student who doesn't plan on going to college. He's got his sights set on working at a car dealership right in Sheffield.
I am hoping to go into a automotive repair career. Full-time at Watson's, I have an internship. I've always liked just working on cars, seeing how they work. I grew up around them, and I just want to pursue it.
Stevens was surprised to find himself enrolled in an early college course, but says he left with a broader sense of himself and how to express his thinking.
Overall, it definitely helped with writing and whatnot. It just helped me improve, and with testing, I'm not a great tester to begin with, so this just helped me kind of expand my thoughts.
Even if he doesn't cash in on the college credits now, Stevens says it's good to have them in his back pocket.
It could have value if I decide I don't want to go into automotive and I want to go back and take some college courses, like go to BCC, for example. It will definitely help.
Whether he ends up in college or not, Stevens says he's already feeling the impact of taking advanced coursework during his high school experience.
It was definitely a challenge, especially for me, because I went in not being a good writer and not very great at writing essays. And at the end of the class, I felt a lot better, felt confident in my writing.
That story from the best of our knowledge is Josh Landy's. On April 20th, Darrell Wheeler will be inaugurated as the 9th president of the State University of New York at New Paltz. Wheeler was appointed president of the Public Liberal Arts University in New York's Hudson Valley in July of 2022. I spoke with Wheeler about his onboarding experience at SUNY New Paltz and his goals for leading the institution.
There are, in my mind, only two reasons for a president to be here. Those are embedded in the mission of the institution, which I keep taped inside my notebook, and that is for the academic success of our students. And number two, to be a value added as a public institution to the community around us and across the state. So when we talk about vision and mission, everything we do, I do, and lead should help us to enhance those two items. In terms of these first 8 months, there have been a number of early on wins in terms of things that I wanted to prioritize. One was to get to meet as many members of our New Paltz community as possible. And so we've done many, many listening sessions and engagement opportunities. So I think those have been a success. We had a priority for bringing on board a new provost. And as you've monitored, we've just hired a new provost who will begin on July 6th. Number three, we wanted to make sure that we got this inauguration up and prepared. So that is teed up and set to go in 2 weeks. And I wanted to also create a fund that would provide resources for us to acknowledge great work of faculty and staff. And so we did create the Presidential Fund for Innovation in Public Higher Education, which is being launched as part of the inauguration. I and my husband, we seeded that fund with $25,000 of our resources, and the goal is to grow that to a minimum of $250,000 to support innovation in public higher education that's being done right here on our campus. And then there's the everyday items of just engaging the community, leading through the normal academic processes, and but really setting doable goals that were necessary along the way that mark the beginning of what I hope to be a long and fruitful stewardship of the university.
President Wheeler, when you speak about innovation, are you talking about classroom learning, academic programs, new kinds of student experiences? When it comes to innovation, what are you looking for?
So innovation goes back to the two missions. The two pillars of our institution are, one, enhancing the capacity of complete entry and completion of degrees and credentials. On that, it's not just about innovating the classroom, it's innovating the entire ecosystem that leads to successful completion. This includes things such as marketing our programs on the front end, enhancing the consumer or student family experience in admissions, in terms of onboarding. This includes our apparatus that support residential life and student life. This includes content that we offer that are relevant to the learning needs. This includes, so it's all inclusive. And I think, so what we don't do is take a narrow perspective on innovation, because innovation has to be seen in its complexity in higher education, not just on the classroom experience, but on all of the components that are necessary, I mean, right down to facilities and management. So creating the Presidential Fund for Innovation is a way of potentially recognizing any person or persons, groups of persons within our community who might be enhancing that ability. Maybe it's a staff person who develops a new and more efficient way of moving student registration or tracking something. Maybe it's a professor or faculty member who creates a new way of delivering content within a class or engaging community members to enhance the student experience. So in my worldview, the approach has to be one where we understand that the classroom is one point in the process of students being applicants to being graduates of our program, and that we have to be prepared to build the capacity across the continuum.
When pushing for innovation, how do you think a liberal arts institution like SUNY New Paltz gives the campus that advantage? The nature of the programming and the academics that are already underway, and sort of the push in a liberal arts education to get students to understand a variety of topics, does that serve in the university's advantage?
I would think so, because the nature of a liberal arts education is to capacitate individuals to engage in meaningful dialogue, meaningful exploration, meaningful inquiry. So the nature of the general education curriculum that we offer, the nature of the programs that support students' exploration of diverse content. And when we're talking diverse content, we mean issues related to STEM sciences, philosophical, literacy, culture, education, so mind, body, spirit growth of students to enhance their ability to be productive citizens, not just in a discipline, but in untapped and unknown disciplines. We know from contemporary data that most students in collegiate spaces today will career change at a minimum of 5 times. We've seen the proliferation of new technologies and diverse ways of engaging the universe. This platform, who would have ever thought that virtual Zoom meetings would dominate and be primarily the only platform for engagement over a 2-year period in the pandemic? So preparing students to be adaptable, flexive, integrative, critical, being technically skilled, but also developing ways of advancing and enhancing communicative processes. These are all elements that are signature in a liberal arts education. The particulars of a course or a discipline, English, math, philosophy, sociology, fine performing arts, education, those particulars are mechanisms, content capsules in which those skills and critical liberal arts content are conveyed. But the class, the specifics of a class are not the definition of a liberal arts education. And so I think we are well positioned with our complement of courses to deliver on that commitment and promise.
How has the recent designation of university for SUNY New Paltz affected things on campus, and how do you envision that the new university designation is going to affect things moving forward?
Yeah, the reality is it has very little impact on campus. And it has little impact on campus for a number of reasons. One, and probably the most basic, is SUNY New Paltz has been known as SUNY New Paltz. It's the term college was almost never invoked. And in fact, many people had no idea we weren't a university. New York State altered the definition, amended the definition for what institutions needed to do to be classified a university. And we already offered significant numbers of graduate courses. So the designation was really an acknowledgement that the college already met the new standard for university. So if anything, we would have to go back 20, 30 years to ask that question, what difference would it make? Because we had already started on that pathway of being under the new standard of university. Now, as we go forward, that status may give us or invoke on a global scale the recognition that we are a comprehensive university environment where not only deep thinking and engagement is recognized, but also that we are on par competitively with other institutions known as universities. So I think in the future, from an external perspective, it may influence or channel energies, but internally, our team, our faculty, our staff, our students, really, it was a seamless transition, and we haven't had to alter anything that we do. I think it just recognizes all the great work that this institution has been doing.
President Wheeler, I just want to bring it back to your inauguration is coming up later this month. Once that's out of the way, are you looking forward to the inauguration and what comes after that?
So what comes after the inauguration is everything that came before the inauguration. The inauguration is an important and symbolic transfer of leadership from onto the new president. It is an opportunity, because that's the investiture experience and the inauguration events. In the design of our inauguration model, it begins with recognition of the first pillar that I mentioned. And I keep coming back to this because this is my compass north. This is why we exist. So on day one, we hold everything on that day in relationship to academic excellence. So we have a panel of students, we have a highlight of academic partnerships, collaborations with students and faculty. And on day three, it's about community partnerships. It's about the value of the community. And in between, you have that day of real pomp and circumstance, which is the transition symbolically and ceremonially of the accoutrement of the presidency. And that will be an exciting day in the history of the institution. It's been 13 years since there was a transition of leadership here. And I'm only the 9th president in a school that's almost 200 years old. It was preceded with principals. So this is an opportunity to highlight the significance of SUNY New Paltz. I just have the distinct honor and pleasure of being the recipient of this stewardship in this moment of time. So I see my role as one of daunting weight and expectation of continuing the great tradition. So I'm leading into this with everything is about the work of getting this institution to continue as a vibrant contributor to the region. And what will happen at 4 p.m. on Friday the 21st is to continue that. And these 3 days in between are a celebration of the greatness of this institution.
That's new SUNY New Paltz president, Darrell Wheeler, who will be inaugurated on April 20th. This has been The Best of Our Knowledge, episode 1699. The Best of Our Knowledge is a national production of WAMC Northeast Public Radio. Thanks to associate producer Jody Cowan. Our executive producer is Dr. Alan Chartok. The latest on all National Productions programs is available via the Airwaves newsletter and our flagship station's website, WAMC.org. Until next time, I'm Lucas Willard.